everyone.
Sounds like the limbo.
I know.
How low
I know.
can you go?
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. Come in and find a seat. So happy you're here. Yeah, I know. We're just seeing how low we can go to create a little coziness without actually blocking out the cameras. So folk at home, are folk at home with us yet? So folk at home can see us. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rabbi Rich. Yeah, you are here for a high, not a low, but we hope a little bit of atmospheric lighting might help us all. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are at home. Now is your moment to get your candles ready, your Sidurim with you. We are beginning on page 75. We are super honored tonight, if that is a phrase, to be welcoming Rabbi Larry Hoffman to our synagogue. And I have had a wonderful time this week, along with Danny. Danny and I were with Rabbi Larry Hoffman, at our Rabbinic Kala, our place of liberal rabbis retreat. And we learned and we ate together and we were very silly together and we walked together, and it was really a great experience for all of us, but really delighted that Rabbi Hoffman is with us tonight. You will all get to hear from him a little later. But for now, we're going to begin. We're going to welcome Shabbat, welcome each other with Shalom Aleichem. And it takes on an extra poignancy this week with Parashat Vayetze, Jacob's dream of the ladder and the angels going up and down, and what that translates into our own lives of feeling that divine sense of support. Shalom Aleichem, you can find on page 76.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Arguni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu.
So we're going to stand to light the candles for those who are able. I should just say that our own David Lewis tonight is not on the tech desk, but is recovering in hospital with us in the service. I am looking at him right now after an emergency appendicitis, and is doing well and recovering, but such is his dedication that he's even zoomed in to be with us here tonight. So we all wish you such a refuah shlema, and particularly as we light the candles and have a sense of healing and rest of Shabbat. And I invite council members who are with us this evening to light the candles for us, help us bring Shabbat in. All of you who are here. It gives everyone else a chance to recognize who's on council. So Margot and Paula and Roy and Tamara and Leslie and Gordon and Beverly. But there are only 2 candles, so we'll watch how they share. Hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much. And as we sit down, let's all of us read together. If you just flick to page 243, the wonderful reading by Rabbi Gunther Plaut. Let me give you a moment to find it. If the day is to have any dignity and significance, and I hope you can read it and you're not plunged into dark over there, raise your hand if it's a little, or Zoe will now be in charge of light. If the day is to have any dignity and significance, it must confront one of our greatest curses, which is our internal and external unrest. This unrest arises from two principal sources. First, that we lead a life without goals, and second, that we are involved in competition without end. Shabbat is potentially an enormous relief from and a protest against these basic causes of unrest. Once a week, it provides us with an opportunity to think about who we are, to deal not with things, but with persons, with creation and our part in it, with society and its needs, with ourselves as individuals, and yet as social beings. We must once again understand that doing nothing, being silent and open to the world, letting things happen inside, can be as important as, and sometimes more important than, what we commonly call useful. So we go straight to Yedid Nefesh on page 78.
Yedid Nefesh Al Harachaman Al Harachaman Meshochav Decha El Retzonecha El Retzonecha Yedid Nefesh Al Harachaman Al Harachaman Meshochav Decha Eretz Onecha Eretz Onecha Yarutz Achecha Kemo Ayal Yishtachaveh El Mul Adarecha Yedid Nefesh Al Harachaman Al Harachaman Meshochav Decha Eretz Onecha Eretz Onecha
Now let's turn straight to Lachadodi. Lachadodi on page 91.
Adoni likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat Kabbalat. 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 Shalom Azeret Ba'ala Gam B'Simcha U'Tzolat U'Bemunei Gam S'Gula Bo'ikala Bo'ikala L'Chadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat L'Chadodi Likrat Kala B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat.
As we stay standing, having welcomed Shabbat, having welcomed each other, let us begin our formal prayer of Mari. Now on page 92.
Baruch et Adonai Am-Mevorach. Baruch Adonai Am-Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Let's sit down. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poter sha'arim, u'bitvuna mashane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'masadeh et hakochavim, v'mishmortehem b'rakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golelo mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, u'mavdil ben yom u'ven layla. Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim.
Ahavat olam Yisrael Amech ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kin Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu U'meinu nasiya k'chukecha V'nizmak b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed V'chayenu V'rech yameinu U'va'em nege yomam v'layla Nege yomam v'layla Al tasur Imenu le'olami Baruch atah Adonai Oel amo Yisrael Oel amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed
together. Let's read together. V'ahavta v'chol levavecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol mo'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi matzavaha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'aleptecha b'derech uv'shokpecha ukrumecha ukashatam laot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot beinenecha ukatavtam al muzot beitecha uvisharecha.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Sometimes we offer the words of Rabbi Israel Matak instead of Emet ve'emunah kol zot as we think about what truth means for us following the Shema. Truth is not the best loved of virtues, and yet it is one of the noblest, as it is perhaps the hardest of them all. It needs courage and resolution and strength of will. It must be loved for its own sake, or it will not be practiced. כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלה מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל Yisrael. So tonight, before we go to Hashkivenu and sing with Dean, this Shabbat is the Shabbat for Jewish Women's Aid. And the last 3 years, before we changed our charitable relationships this past Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we were in deep partnership with Jewish Women's Aid here in London. And I see Andrea as part of our Shabbat service tonight, being here on Zoom. And Andrea was our ambassador for Jewish Women's Aid. And before we offer Hashkivenu, which we talk about as being Shalom Bayit, peace at home, the ability to live with ease and comfort and support, this feels a moment, a really important moment for us to offer a prayer for this Shabbat, for Jewish Women's Aid Shabbat, and to think of those for whom home is far from a sanctuary of peace and safety, and to be able to offer that prayer that Zoe will read for us tonight before we sing together Hashkivenu.
A prayer for breaking the wall of silence. Our God and God of our ancestors, our fathers and our mothers, help us strengthen the broken voices, the silent cries of those for whom the walls of their family home have become prison walls, those who pray that we will recognize their suffering, those who call out, "Add my tears as well into your bottle of water." Let us hear the sound of the price that our brothers and sisters cry out, and remember that we were all created in your image. As it was said, I heard a murmur, a voice. Allow us to find in ourselves the true will to help them start anew, to find the mighty courage to cry out and not to hide, the hope to grow towards a better future. Grant us the privilege of assisting them in discovering their mental strength and the choices open before them. And to those who suffer from familial violence, we call out to them with all our heart. Let me in, my own sister. Raise your voice with power. Raise it, have no fear, for there is a reward for your labour. Shed tears like a sobbing river. I have seen your tears. Our sister, our sister, our sister, may you become prosperous to thousands of myriads. May it be your will, God, in the heavens, that the meagre cries will be heard and redeemed. Create a new soul in them and in us, and endow in us redemption and life. Blessed are you, the renewer of goodness, each day who purifies the human soul. Blessed are you, the one who strengthens our hands in creating a society in which everyone has the right to live a life of respect and love. Ana el Rafa na lanu. Please, God, heal us.
Thank you, Zoe. That prayer was shared this week amongst colleagues by Rabbi Gilly Tzidki Ahu. Together, foot of page 96, we praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth. I invite you to stand if you're ready, if you'd like to stand for the Amidah, but to be reminded as we go into prayer tonight, such a beautiful phrase that we find in this week's parashah that we'll hear tomorrow when Jacob wakes up from his dream of the ladder and the angels, and with his head on the rock for a pillow, he wakes up and he exclaims, as I shared in our weekly message, Ma nora hamakom hazeh va'ani anochi lo yadati. How wonderful is this place? And I didn't know it, or I didn't recognize it. And I shared with you this week of my recognition that not a day of my life has passed without an appreciation of the relationship I have had with my grandmother. But I think for all of us, the gift of being able to hold what feels awesome, spectacular, wonderful in our own lives, whatever it is. And I'm reminded the poem that we all love so much, that we grew to be so close to during COVID, of Marge Piercy's "The Discipline of Blessings is to taste each moment, the bitter, the sour, the sweet, and the salty, and be glad for what does not hurt," because she urges us to pay attention to each little and big blossom on the tree of life. So let's hold those thoughts as we offer the Amidah together.
Adonai sefatai tiftahu fi agitei latecha. Adonai sefatai tiftahu fi agitei latecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Lama'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Hozer U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah. Unending is your might, Eternal One. You are the source of eternal life. Great is your power to redeem. You cause the wind to blow, the rain to fall, the sun to shine, and the dew to descend. In your love, you sustain the living. In your compassion, you grant us eternal life. You support the falling and heal the sick. You free the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of all strength? Who is your equal, sovereign, author of life and death, whose will it is that goodness shall prevail? Trusting in you, we see life beyond death. Baruch atah Adonai, Machaye Hametim. Kadosh atah v'nora shamecha, ve'in lanu Eloah mibaladecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Sit down if you'd like as we mark Shabbat.
Shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ברית עולם.
God for the holiness of Shabbat. And together we're in the middle of page 100 as we share in a hope that our prayers have somehow bound us together and that we leave somewhat transformed from having been here together. And eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Now I invite you to take a moment just to reflect on what you feel grateful, appreciative for in your own lives, so that we can offer the hatimah of gratitude at the end of the next paragraph. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shemcha u'lacha na'eh lohodot. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due.
Shalom Al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. 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 Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Shalom al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Yodot negecha levadecha et am Yisrael. B'kol עת ובכל שעה ישמעך. Shalom al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Shalom al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam.
Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. Let's take a moment or two for silent reflection, for an opportunity to just mark the fact that we've got to the end of this week, whatever this week has held for us, whether we're looking ahead or we're just grateful for an oasis of a moment of time. Take it for yourselves right now.
Radzon ireki Begon libi lebanecha Adonai turi begoali Adonai turi begoali Ratzon irefi Begon libi lefanecha Adonai turi begoali Adonai turi begoali Ose shalom b'mromah, Uyavase shalom aleinu, ve'almo Yisrael, ve'almo b'nei Adam. Ose shalom b'mromah, Uyavase shalom aleinu, ve'almo Yisrael, ve'almo
Thank you, Dean. So I really couldn't be more delighted to be welcoming Rabbi Larry Hoffman to speak to us this evening. And just before Larry tries to see whether this microphone, we think it is working, and you should be able to do a little bit of roving around. Danny also likes to rove around, so we're used to that here and we rather like it. But I should just say, before I introduce you, Larry, that for many years, I feel almost as long as I've been here as a rabbi, I have quoted to you all from an article written by no other but Rabbi Hoffman himself about how Jews often like to get things right more than they like to do things well. And Rabbi Hoffman wrote it in the context of Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, Erev Shabbat services, Friday night services, and about how we are often driven to be right and to do it in an authentic way that allows us to feel that we're doing it as every generation of Jews has ever done it. And I have quoted it so often to you about us being audacious and brave about doing things well and not just doing things right. And lo and behold, Rabbi Hoffman is with us tonight. So you will excuse my slight over-excitement. So Rabbi Hoffman, I just need to introduce him a little, is the Professor Emeritus of Liturgy, Worship and Ritual at Hebrew Union College that trains Reform rabbis in the States. But he is more than that. He is a rabbi's rabbi who is often awarded the honor of renewing spirituality, Jewish spirituality in the States. He created and is the academic coordinator of the Tish Fellowship Program that takes cantors and rabbinical students, cantorial students and rabbinical students as their training to think more deeply, more profoundly, more bravely about what it means to be a leader, a religious leader. I did not know this about Larry, that he was called on by the United States Navy to think deeply about what it means to train chaplains in that country. He also is credited, as many of us know, with Synagogue 2000 that he created with his colleague, Dr. Ron Wolfson, about how to improve, renew, ameliorate, and re-energize synagogues in the United States, which you can imagine we are hugely interested in still, even though that was begun in 1990. Larry, I'll stop because I am in danger of using up all your time, but we are delighted that you are here with us tonight, and our council get to be in conversation with him over dinner, and hopefully we'll put some of his ideas and enabling into practice. Larry, you can either be up here or you can use that mic and start with it there.
This is great.
Okay, great.
Beautiful. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
I've been in this country now for about 10 or 12 days, going back on Sunday, and I could not imagine returning without being here. I must say, your Rabbi Rebecca is an extraordinary rabbi, and I now would go on and on about her as she did with me, but for fear that you'd all want to go home and miss dinner. But I can tell you that I didn't really know her until she began planning this rabbinic Kala with me, and I discovered in her a magnificent rabbi, really. Someone who's thoughtful and deep, courageous, and far-seeing. And what I like best was how much she loves you. I mean, she spoke so highly of this congregation, about how fortunate she is to be with you. And I thought, well, I really must come here. So I'm glad I got this invitation, if only for that reason. I want to do something tonight. I've got about 10 minutes or so, which means maybe 12, but maybe 15, but not longer. I want to talk about spirituality, because everyone seeks spirituality these days. And I was there, as it were, when Jews began discovering spirituality. There was about 40 years ago or something like that, I'm not entirely sure when. I was giving a lecture at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana, middle of the United States. And I had given 5 talks on the Passover Haggadah to Roman Catholics, all of whom were excited about the Haggadah because they associated Passover with Jesus' last meal, the Last Supper. And so finally I got to the last lecture, and it was in a library in public, not just to the theology department, and there were 500 people. That must be half of Indiana, I thought. All the people who were there, and they waited on my every word. So I got to the end of this lecture, and a woman's hand went up, maybe 10 rows, like right at the back there. And she said, Rabbi Hoffman, you've talked about the Passover Seder now beautifully for the whole week, but I see you said nothing about the spirituality of the Seder. Would you care to say something about that? And I thought, not really. Because I had no idea what she was talking about. Back then, nobody talked about spirituality in the Jewish world. And I had to admit that I didn't understand the question. I must say they were all very polite. Nobody booed. They allowed me to stay. They even smiled. At the end, she and I went to the faculty club. And there she waxed eloquent about Catholic spirituality. She was so certain about it. And I thought to myself, I don't understand a word of what she's saying. And yet she was so certain that there was something called spirituality that I wanted to know what we have in Judaism. No one had studied it really. But I was convinced that either we have spirituality too, or else only Catholics are spiritual. That didn't make any sense. And so I've been on a 40-year trip trying to understand Jewish spirituality. I don't mean the spirituality, let's say, of meditation, of nature, the kind of thing that's open to everybody. That I appreciate for sure. I mean Jewish spirituality, spirituality that comes from being a Jew, from doing the ordinary things that Jews do. And today, I'm going to give one example, and the example comes from Hanukkah. Now, I love Hanukkah. I've loved Hanukkah ever since I lit candles as a little child, and I can to this day remember my parents' arms around me as I watched those lights getting larger and larger, more and more candles every day. And then when I had my own family, once again, I loved it. Now I'm alone, I still light the candles. And somehow or other, as the room fills with light, just a little, and then more, I love it. But there is a lot more to Hanukkah than just enjoying the light. And I want to give it to you tonight. It is such a wonderful teaching. First, you have to understand that the halakha of lighting candles matters. Now, I don't follow halakha. That is to say, I'm not a halakhic Jew. I'm far from Orthodox. I'm liberal like you. I'm Reformed in America, but Reformed Judaism in America is actually liberal Judaism here. So I have a very high degree of appreciation of you as an extension of me and me an extension of you. So I'm not a follower of halakha, but I study it because the halakha is like a series of I guess you might say, icebergs. And when you study it, you see the iceberg taking shape. But below the surface, you see, which nobody looks at, is the way all of this stuff, all of Jewish teaching coheres. You can think of even the practices of Judaism, lighting candles, for example, as an iceberg. We all do it, but we barely ever jump below the surface, deep dive to see how the whole thing comes together. And that's what spirituality is, when everything comes together in our lives. I liken it to a child who, I was sick anyway as a kid, that's before they had computers and smartphones, they used to give me, while I was in bed, a big thick book, which was a workbook. Now you can do it on your phone. And the workbook had things called connect the dots. And I thought to myself, I love it. One after the other, I connected those stupid dots and watched nothing on the page become something. Later on in life, I wondered why kids liked it. And it hit me suddenly. To connect the dots on a page is like being like God. Because God takes emptiness and void, nothingness, the chaos, and turns it into a cosmos, connecting the dots, a picture out of nothing. And so when we're a child, we do that connecting of the dots as practice to being human because we're made in God's image. And you know what? Spirituality is ultimately the way we connect the dots, not of a book, not even of a smartphone, of our lives. Because the dots in our lives come furiously over the horizon, one after the other. Some of them we plan, some of them we don't. We wake up one morning, who knows what will strike us? Dots, dots, dots. And at one point in our life, sometime we say, what does it all mean? How do we fit together? What is our life? What's our story? Spirituality is the way we connect the dots of our lives to make sense of our lives. And as a matter of fact, it's harder to connect the dots of life than the dots on a book. Because the dots of life don't come numbered. And it's always a question of what does our life mean? The spirituality of Judaism is a connection below the surface of 3,000 years of Jewish thinking that allows us to make sense of our lives. So tonight, a short lesson in that spirituality, a lesson from Hanukkah. First, as I say, the halakha. What's the rule about candles? The rule is you're supposed to light them, and ideally you put them in the window. And you put them in the window so other people can see it. Because the purpose of the candles is just to be there to proclaim the miracle of light. That's it. That's its only purpose. Now here's the interesting thing. You're not allowed to use the candles. We have a song that some of you may sing here. I don't know, in America a few people know it. It's called Hanerot Halalu. These lights. And these lights of Hanukkah. Hanerot Halalu Kodesh Haim in Hebrew. These lights are holy. And then a colon, and it says, Ein lanu reshut lahishamesh bahem in Hebrew. That is, these lights are holy. What does that mean? It means we are not allowed to use them. Now, even Shabbat candles aren't holy like that. Let's say the lights go out in your house and it's Shabbat and the candles are lit and you feel like reading a book. You can do it. Even in the middle of dinner, you can at least still eat dinner by the candles. But oddly enough, if all you had, let's say it's only Hanukkah, and the Hanukkah candles are sitting there, you're not allowed to read a book with it. And in fact, if you're eating by the light of the candles, you have to stop eating. You are not allowed to use the candles because they are holy. You want to know what holiness is? Holiness means something that is non-utilitarian. You cannot use them. Now think about that for a moment. There's a law that the rabbis gave us around the year 200 about synagogues. Synagogues were just coming into their own. Synagogues still were not the most important way that Jews met. That happened later. But the synagogue was there. And one of the laws about synagogues, and pretty much the only law that's found in the Talmud, in this early book called the Mishnah, about the year 200, is this. You are not allowed to make a shortcut through the synagogue, going in the front door and going out the back. You have to walk around. Now, why would they care about that? Big deal. The answer is, if you walk through it, you're making use of it. And the synagogue is holy. You cannot use it for your own ends. Similarly, Shabbat. Why don't we work on Shabbat? You can't make use of Shabbat. Shabbat is holy. You just are on Shabbat. You don't use it for things. I have another one for you. You're not allowed to use Torah for any purpose. It's holy. You can't use it. Now, there's a law also, a halakha, that you are not allowed to pay a rabbi for teaching it. Uh-oh. Fortunately, there's a legal fiction, a way around it, a loophole. Since we need rabbis to teach Torah, but we can't pay them for teaching Torah, what technically you do is you pay them for what they otherwise would be doing if they didn't teach Torah. But you see from the legal fiction, they still maintain the idea that Torah is holy. You can't use it. And last, human beings are made in God's image. We are holy. Guess what? You cannot use a human being. You can have relationships with them. You can even make a deal with them. I'm selling something that you want. That's okay. It's a covenant. We both benefit from it. But I can't use you, and you can't use me. There's something about human life that allows us to go beyond usage. What makes us human is, like God, we are holy. And at our best, we just are in the universe. I think back to my grandmother, actually. At the time when I was kind of, well, a mischief maker, you know. Sometimes my grandmother would smile and she would say, "You're useless." I now know that was the highest compliment. Look at me. So on this Shabbat, just be. It's not for use. Spend time with the people you love and recognize they're just there with you, not to be used. And when it comes time for Hanukkah candles, stop and look at them and think how wonderful it is to be human. What a wonderful teaching of our Jewish tradition. That candles are holy, we don't use them. And each and every one of them reminds us that at our best, we are non-utilitarian. We need not accomplish anything. We need not get anything done. We need not justify ourselves. At our best, we just appreciate the fact that we are in the universe, created by God. At our best, to be useless. Shabbat Shalom.
Let us stand for Aleinu, which is a prayer of productivity, but we'll return to the sense of relaxation for Shabbat. We're on page 520 as we sing with Dean.
Aleinu leshabeach Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, בגורלנו להמליך מלכותו, גורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים
Turn now to Kaddish on page 524. We think of those in our community who are mourning a loved one. I name Toby Lawson, mother of Kate Burke, my mother, and of course Toby being my grandmother. I also shared the very recent news just during this service of the death of Anita Friedman. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. And we turn also to those who are marking a yahrzeit at this time. Alf Kay, father of Anthony Kay, Joanna Selden, sister of Sarah Dibb, and Yosef Rosenbaum, grandfather of Jackie Fawcett. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. And may those who recall and remember their loved ones be comforted in their loss as we say the words of the Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah, v'yamar divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'hayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dochol Beit Yisrael, b'gala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach le'olam amei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yitalev talal shemedi kudusha brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbahata v'nechemata, da'amiram b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru. Amen. let's sit down, and wine and grape juice will come round as we sing to each other with Dean. Dean's melody of Yivarechecha, our blessing that we offer to each other on a Friday night. If you have children or family here, it makes it all the more poignant. But for us particularly, we really see this moment of Friday night as being a moment of being in family, in our home. So let's sing with Dean. Let's see if I can remember. Haven't done one service, so I'm obviously going to forget page numbers as I always do, you know. Page 563 that you can follow the blessing.
Yesimcha Elohim Ephraim v'chi Menashe Elohim Kesara V'karabel Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha tichuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha tichuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom v'yasem lecha shalom.
Let's stand. Let's go straight to Kiddush. Those of you who are at home, whatever you have ready to make Kiddush over. Anyone in from California, I recognize it will be a cup of coffee. But let us go into our Kiddush together. Page 564 if you'd like to follow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri halachen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu v'shabbat chodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat.
So I've asked our returning travelers, Joe and Raphael, who were in Amsterdam representing our community in Amsterdam last Shabbat, to come and do Hamotzi. Asher was meant to be with them, but is still really poorly. So they do it also thinking of Asher tonight, who was going to be here tonight. You could do LJY for us. Yeah. It's kind of good showing off to our Canadian guest. Want to take the cover off?
We give thanks to God for bread. Voices join in grateful chorus. As to you our prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Yeah, cheers, mate. Exactly. So do move to the back where there is a little kiddush for us, an opportunity for you to meet Rabbi Hoffman